Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome to Muse and Measure. Today we have a very special interview with poet and songwriter Reed By. We've traveled all the way to Boulder, Colorado from the smoky, steamy streets of New York City to be in this clear mountain air at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains and to bask in the insights about songwriting of the great Reed By. Thank you for being here, Reed.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So you have this very long history with poetry. How would you say that poetry has informed your songwriting process and helped you? And when have there been times where something fits into the mode of poetry versus into the mode of songwriting, where you've had to delineate the boundaries between them?
Yeah, it's fun to think about all that and work with those boundaries and differences. I think I started writing very simple poems, like most people, out of a broken heart love affair in my late teens, late teens. And but even then, there's lines. You know, you use the line in poetry as a kind of primary rhythmic device, even if you're not conscious at all, you're using it that way. Just the feel of words, what groups go together, how they're starting to move, make packages of sound, and aren't just continuous events. They shape themselves into units of some variable lengths, and naturally, as you write and feel. So that was, I think that's where I began, and probably most people who write begin, many anyway. And that's the kind of poetry that I was exposed to as well by people I knew, friends, writing, influences in literature. So that's, kind of, as you said, it's gone on for a while now, and I guess you just naturally become more attuned to the way you're dividing things up as you write and put it down on paper. So they come out in these lines and groups of lines. And all that is related, I think, pretty directly to song and verse, measuring either regularly or very irregularly, again, consciously or not even consciously, it happens. And it's one of the foundations of the pleasure that one gets in writing and in reading and hearing. I think is largely involved with that, those units as they are expressed in sound and in writing on the page. So I grew up too listening to the radio, and I grew up at a time where there's a lot of experiment in pop music, or it seemed there was a lot of new kinds of approaches to popular music, and a lot of them were involved in importing old forms of popular music back, but in a different era and different sensibility and different sense of play. And I relate to that pretty strongly. So there was always kind of a play with verse, but I never thought of it as something it was serious writing or any, in my case. And I remember, I just remembered a long car trip to New Hampshire with my family, in which I sang incessantly, it seemed, on the way back, to everybody's annoyance. See the pyramids along the Nile. What is that? You Belong to Me. Do you remember that song?
Yeah.
I think there was an older version of it back in the day, and then a vocal group, harmony vocal group, put it out again, and that's the one I can't remember their name. Do you?
No, I don't know.
See the pyramids along the Nile. Anyway, I sang that virtually the whole way back of this car ride. drove everyone nuts. So there was some kind of a bodily, in a confined space with nothing else to do, this kind of sound and physical relation between words and song was there to play with and have fun with. And so anyway, I think to your question, the relation is always related. The relation is always active between measure, rhythm, structure of some kind, often very loose, sometimes very tight, and language, writing. And and then I started, I got a little guitar at a pawn shop, had a scenery painted on it of palm trees and things. It wasn't much of a guitar, I don't think, but I started learning some chords from a friend at school, and I never became a musician or a serious guitar player at all, but enough to strum a bit, and that was another element I think that came in terms of eventually trying out writing songs, naturally trying out writing songs. I cannot remember the first song I was trying that I made up or wrote. But there was a period, I guess I was in my 40s, where really late 30s or 40s, where I began including songwriting in the things I did, and making them up, sort of feeling available for songs and that kind of language writing play. A couple came in dreams. I would dream a whole song in a couple or three cases with lyrics, but not, lyrics that had a seed, I would say, and that some phrase or maybe a little more than a phrase, that then the next morning I, grew like that. And I'm sure you've had that experience.
So that's been some of the best gifts for creativity, is to wake up with a song in your head and rush to the phone or the notepad to get it down.
Yeah.
So
because they're totally unexpected stuff,
Yeah.
as opposed to what I thought I wanted to put into a song.
It's something to express, yeah. So when you said that it was in your 30s and 40s that you started to really put some kind of intentionality towards I'm going to write song as a form.
Yeah.
So before that, were you just writing verse, and then you're like, oh well, this sounds like a song? Did you have a different intentionality? And does that still come into play when you're just writing maybe poetry, and all of a sudden you go, well, this is a song lyric and not a...
Well, I rarely discover a song without intentionally going towards a song. I think I don't think I found that happening much. But well,
would you say there's a different intention, or like when you
Yeah.
take off your poet's hat and put on your songwriting hat, what do you think the shift is there,
Yeah.
as far as what you're paying attention to and what
Yeah.
you're trying to do?
I think in my case it has to do with wanting to feel something in a song, or with with that kind of stanza-like structure and musical, with with a melody of some kind, but I don't know what it will be. But it's a close edge between a sentimentality feeling, or it involves certainly a sentimentality, a kind of soulful desire. I feel when I want that and sort of sit down with that. That's about all there is, often. And then start to strum something, and maybe there's a kind of feeling that transmits itself into the strumming of the guitar and playing with some chords. Mine are very simple, as you know, but it's still kind of an infinite range of possibilities. Although now I think I have to try to do something a little different
Mm.
than I've done with simple country folk like um, ballad structures.
Mhm.
But still, there's ways of using those in different ways too, so that they're not the same, just the same form again. They're inviting something different in
Mhm.
to themselves, and that's what I, hope will happen some more. It's been
Yeah.
a while since I've done any, but I think if I make the space, things do grow as you get older in that way, and obviously everybody develops things. So if you stay with anything, it seems to develop and become more confident
Mhm.
a little bit, and more open without being anxious about it or something like that.
Mhm.
There's still anxiety,
Sure.
anticipation, and also the fear of failure and the recognition of failure when it comes out. So that's happened a lot. I've tried to write occasionally in a notebook something a song, without the guitar, and most of the time it hasn't
Mm.
worked out. Sometimes I've gone back though and found, okay, this is not as bland and simple as I thought it was. There's a little something happening here that, and if you give it another round as with a different kind of inspiration and giving into what was there and seeing what happens.
Mhm.
So that's one way I've come up with a few songs. Some have happened in this yard, just sitting at that table, and other groups of songs have come from being in a car, like I said before, but this time driving and like noticing a sign or something on the highway,
Yeah.
and then that starts to cook a little bit.
Mhm.
Sometimes I'll pull off, and if I have a couple of lines, I'll pull off, and then I feel like I'm on the way to something with a
Mhm.
song.
Did that happen with Next Right Eden? Is it
Yeah,
you saw a sign for that?
yeah. Next
Mhm.
Right Eden was a sign in a highway in southern Colorado, and it, yeah, it somehow was enough. Next Right Eden,
Mhm.
with all its loaded um, context,
Mhm.
was enough to, unfold
Good chance.
as this drive went on. I don't think I could have done it without the time in the car, without anything else to do but
Mhm.
drive and let this sort of develop.
Mhm.
And then I'll pull off again and write a few more words down and try to get a few stanzas. Maybe 50% of that will end up in a song.
Mhm.
That happened too with What's Lyman Like? Lyman being on these highways, different highways in Colorado, the sign Lyman, and so it was like all roads lead to Rome, but here all roads seem to lead to Lyman, someplace I'd never been, and I have no idea what was. Knew it was in the eastern plains of Colorado a bit, but that's all. But that was the fun part of the song, is not knowing it,
Right.
not being able to describe it from having been there, but just
Mhm.
have it develop. Developing seems to be the word I'm using a lot, like
Yeah.
photograph develops.
Mhm. It seems like in your lyrics too, you really imbue the kind of what could, for most people, would be the mundane, or they just overlook, with some kind of magical,
Yeah,
or you bring it to life through your poetic imagination.
yeah, thank
Taking
you
just
for that.
a road sign that says Eden, or most people would just oh, that's just the name
Yeah,
of some small little town in Colorado, but
uh-huh.
to fill it with
Yeah,
all the biblical references, and
hmm,
but also to keep, I really like how in that song you keep it really at the heart level, because it's about your relationship with
yeah,
somebody, and
yeah,
coming back to Eden, will we recognize the place?
yeah. That question too. Where else is it if it's not here?
Mhm.
It's not an affirmation that this is the paradise, but if it's not here, where is it?
Mhm.
Somewhere else? Where?
Yeah.
It's like that Down Here song too. Is
Mhm.
it up there, down here? Are they really different places?
Mhm. Well, it seems as another recurring theme I see in your songs is it's definitely taking that. You said sentimentality, but also just adding in this garden, say the Garden of Eden that we're returning to through the imagination, you're really bringing in the heart aspect of it, the sentimentality,
Mm-hmm.
and the and just the imagination aspect.
Yeah.
What would you say is the biggest difference between that than in when you're writing a poem?
Yeah.
What is, where's the dividing line there
Yeah.
as far as
I
the
don't
process?
seem to have that same quality of sentimentality as a kickstart,
Mm-hmm.
with a poem, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite like that, or that sense of, soulful melody or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, that possible, because there's not much melody involved in writing poems,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I know, for me.
Mm-hmm.
So there, it's more development on the page by juxtaposition of phrasing, without attempting to have them bound together in melodic
Mm-hmm.
forms, or so it's more, I guess, rhythm there is less corralled by the want of a melody. Am I using these terms correctly musically, do you think?
I think so,
I
yeah.
mean, that's about all I have, rhythm and melody. And I know they're both involved in both. I can feel that.
Mm-hmm.
But melody, in this case, I'm limiting to the song form with a musical pattern. And in writing, it's more of an ongoing form that is discovering changes as it goes along,
Mm-hmm.
morphing into different areas or sequences
Mm-hmm.
as it goes along. Sometimes becoming a long thing with parts, segments and parts. Sometimes pretty continuous.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, more immediate repetition than you can get away with
Yeah.
in a song
Sure.
usually,
Right.
unless it's a house that Jack built or something.
I mean, it's been my experience, and I wonder if this resonates with you at all, that when you're writing a song, there's less onus on the words to do the work of really driving the experience, and you have this aid of the melody and the music, so that you don't have to be quite as dazzling with your words.
Uh-huh.
The potential's there, obviously, but
Yeah.
oftentimes they're going hand in hand to create an emotional state
Right.
rather than an intellectual one, right?
Yeah.
Of course, that also comes into play in poetry. You want some heart in there and some
Mhm.
emotion, but it
Yeah, that's a good.
seems to be.
Yeah, that's a good focus on the difference. I think there, there has to be. What was the word? Well, I don't want to use that word, but something enlivening has to be happening in writing to me, more than just a litany of, your complaints or wishes or something like that.
Yeah.
Something has to take hold of the words and phrasing and move it on beyond, what I think of as my concerns at that moment, conscious concerns at that moment. And in the songs, I think it's a good, and for me anyway, I agree that there's a kind of understated, maybe almost ironized, is that a word? Downplaying of the linguistic features themselves. Hopefully they are uniting and getting together and spawning provocative
Mm-hmm.
uh, meanings, possible meanings and energies. But I don't think you can. I don't. It's not the kind. I don't see that. You can try too hard, and it's transparent. I think when you do, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't quite have a genuine feel to me.
Right. And
But it's okay, and it's good for, maybe good for pop songs in general to have that, the hooks and things.
Yeah.
And they all need that, but
Sure.
not so much, over-pronounced or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to be a balance, because sometimes you can sabotage the emotion of the music with
Yeah.
overly, you know, flighty imagery or something, where
Yes.
it's just too much interpretive labor for the listener to try and figure out what you're talking about,
Yep.
and it kind of kills the mood
Yeah.
of the song.
Yeah.
So.
That's a real dance act with the emotional mood and tone of the music versus that of the lyrics. And
Yeah.
how they work together or don't. And
Right.
yeah, you don't want ponderous lyrics on a bouncy tune, or vice versa.
So you have, you're driving down the road, you see a sign, and you get, inspiration to write Eden, or What's Lyman, or, you know, any of the sources of inspiration that you have. So when you get to the actual revision point of songwriting, what are you looking for in, as you go line by line?
Yeah.
What makes a really strong line versus
Yeah.
something that you see, oh, this needs to be worked on?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say it's primarily a feeling thing, where you feel some energy and bright possibility, and then there's something where one thing hits another, which didn't come out in a unified way, planned, but they hit each other, and maybe in a way that you had no idea beforehand that they would, and the song then takes a course that you didn't anticipate at all, because a couple of things hit together, and then a third thing comes, and you let that happen. You want that to happen. You don't want to pull back and hold on to your original inspiration or messaging thought, message of the emotion you're in. So that play is very important and wonderful, to see happen. And you have to be careful not to be overly monitoring the thing you're looking at, the words you're looking at that moment, because you're cutting away often that possibility of the thing starting to unite and move more magically on their own. So I think you have to be willing to go with the mood that's coming along, rather than staying with the mood that you felt was impelling things from the start.
So even if you're writing a song because your heart is broken, you want to allow for that transcendence.
Yeah.
For the words to work themselves
Yeah,
out,
it's
and
still,
the music to take
still your
someplace
mind.
else.
A moment of mind where your mind is suspicious of your intentions before, and wants to help you get out of that mold, a little bit.
Absolutely. And it's probably terrible, cliche, heartbroken songs just stay with too much filiality to the form, or the original sentiment that was placed.
Well, it is astounding to me, not surprising, but astounding when I think about the nature of what percentage, 87, 90% of all popular songs being love songs, in a one-to-one, basically, version. Me and her, me and him. That desire. So it's great, because that's something that's, you could say, is universal. I think you can almost hear it in other languages too, and it's to me a relief to hear other language songs where it's a love song, but you don't have to understand the words this time. Maybe maybe you're missing a lot. But that's amazing. That's the human song at its core, it seems.
Yep.
Either desire, frustration of desire, pain at the unfulfillment of desire, anger at that too. That whole cycle of human feeling and emotion and human engagement. So, because that's been the case for so long, forever maybe, and will be probably forever. Either if you're a really talented songwriter and you feel you could go into it as a profession, you almost have to work at that level.
Sure.
And there will always be inventive, new, innovative approaches and results, and so much can be delivered in the performance too. And a great performer, they somehow find a way to make this not trite, and give it actual, somehow genuine emotional feeling and raw passion. So,
Oh, this is Pippa the dog, by the way. The muse, current muse of Read By, I think.
sorry,
One
I
of the
didn't
muses.
introduce Pippa before. She seems to need no introduction.
She needs no introduction. Not that it can be answered, but why do you think there is such a close tie between love and especially ideals of romantic love? But I mean, there's a whole history there with the troubadours and the development of romantic love. Why is love tied so much to the song form and that mode of expression, do you think?
Because it is. I'd say.
Okay.
Because that's what it is.
That's how it is.
That's how it is, yeah. I mean, that's certainly I think, the primary avenue of most human beings' cauldron of passion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we are, little cauldrons of passion.
Little cauldrons of passion. It's nice. And out of that cauldron, we shape these forms as a mean. I guess for me, it's a means of communication. That's what's so powerful about song is it not only is it communicating ideas, but it's also communicating the emotion.
Yeah.
In a way that's very direct, I think.
Yeah.
And sometimes that fails horribly, but
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
it's
I
really
think that's a very good frame, even bigger frame for the whole thing than desire and human passion is communication, which is part of that desire, and need, to meet others and express yourself and hear others express themselves and grow that way and put things together on that basis. And see you're not alone in so many ways. Everybody's gone through the same thing, and some have said these funny or shocking or very engaging and inspiring things about those situations. Yeah, so it's there's ways in which all of these things can become a little over romanticized probably, but there's a real gift, to making a song, I think, that goes beyond even if you hold on to it as your own possession somewhere, which we all do to some degree, but I think it's really worthwhile to consider the fact that it didn't come from my conscious wish at any moment, but it came from somewhere deeper than that, and therefore it's sort of under this persona of myself, and I think that can be very liberating too. You can surprise yourself much more easily if you're not trapping the song inside me as the identity of the songwriter maker.
Yeah, it's really important, I think. And communicating through the five senses, grounding it in the actual, sensory experience, so you can communicate it effectively.
Yeah, that's another important point, that the liveliness of anything really has to be involved in those receptive, live in the moment receptive faculties.
What for you is the biggest obstacle when you write a song, you find? As far as
I think the idea of wanting to write one is is the biggest. Carrying it around. I haven't written a song in a year now. I'll probably never write one again. I've lost whatever it was. I'm too lazy to really, get back into a mode where I would be encouraging it more than I am now. Hesitation and fear and laziness.
Sounds like the same obstacles to meditation, right?
Yeah.
Just getting to the cushion is the hardest part, right?
Yeah.
Getting to the songwriting.
Yeah.
Do you do any preliminary, not process, but is there anything you do before you start a songwriting session that you find helps you get in the right headspace for it?
Well, you mentioned meditation. That's something I have done now for a long time. Traditional sitting meditation. And though I don't intentionally do that before trying to write a song. I know that the one thing I do is just kind of open up, um, to see if something kind of is right there on a doorstep wanting to come in, or if it's not there and it's not time to force it, So allowing that openness and space before um, the project of the song is something that takes place naturally.
So you try to get into kind of a meditative, open space where you're just whatever arises is going to be the inspiration.
Yeah, and then you can touch that feeling sense, that where it's not a constructed thing so much, but just what's there. If you have that yearning or that slight sentimental, I mean, we're all made differently. So I don't know how sentimental I am as a person all the time or most of the time, but I know that I need to feel that sometimes, or I want to feel that sometimes, and it's seductive sometimes.
Sure. I feel for me that's one of the few places I can tap into those emotions.
In the song?
In songwriting process, and wear my heart on my sleeve.
Yep. Yes.
In an effective way, and I know one of the litmus tests I have for my songs is that if I'm not a little bit embarrassed by it, I know that I haven't told the truth.
That's good.
So.
Yeah, I can relate to that certainly, and I can relate to it in your songs certainly.
Well, is there anything else about songwriting that you want to talk about that we feel that we haven't hit upon that are important for?
I'm sure there's some things, but I think we've covered a pretty good range. Maybe we've been a little abstract. I'm not sure, but I mean, in terms of practicalities and details.
Well, it kind of points to the mystery of songwriting, really, because when you talk about it while you're not in it, it's just this abstract thing, and then when you try to figure out what the hell happened, how that song actually came to be, it's still kind of mysterious. I still feel that way about my songs.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, rather than, even though in the communication it may be vague, but I think the concreteness of emotional feeling is, I mean, it is a concrete thing in its way, rather than an intellectual abstraction. And I think that's something to touch into,
So can you say a little bit more about that? What do you mean by concreteness of emotional?
Well, you can feel it pretty definitely in all its range of stuff, and we do it all the time. And some of it's too much, too intense, and other times it's kind of calling you in of me, and into, to feel what's going on. And then the expression part is almost simultaneous in a certain way with the feeling of it, if you make it that way. And I think there's no other way for it to be. And it's not a matter of interpreting the feeling and translating into words. I don't think it's more the feeling now speaks, and you're there, trying that out. It may be very sappy. It may be, not go on. It may fall apart in progress and things like that, or never get really started. But I think it's the key, for me, the key entry point is, that opening and then dropping into what's you're feeling and what's there, and then often what you're seeing and hearing, like you're saying, is very much involved quickly. That suddenly the world is that feeling, and it's showing itself through that. I guess, emotional being or something. It's got that. It's always got that side to some degree.
So is the challenge there then to avoid, I'm sitting here, I'm having this feeling, to avoid abstracting that into a concept of like, oh, I'm feeling depressed or sad.
If you can catch it before that, you're in much better shape, I think. Just the energy of that feeling speaking, or saying what it says at this moment is my best advice for songwriting.
That's great. So would that mean like that you're describing the sensory experience of the feeling itself, and then whatever associations pop into your mind related to that feeling?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Would that be a good way of
Yeah.
describing what? So translating this into words
Yeah.
and song, are those the two elements of that? Would you say, or
Two being.
well, just the talking about the actual visceral experience of the feeling, of the emotion. Like, what does it feel like to have this hole in my, this ache in my gut, or so the actual physical experience of that, and then also just the associations that, the things you think about that naturally just come in the thought
together.
process. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I find myself favoring the saying that feeling then starts to speak on its own, rather than I have to now. I think I don't know.
You're not the mediator. You're just trying to
as little of
get out
that
of the way.
as possible is probably the best chance for this to be something that gets a life of its own, has a life of, rather than something I'm manipulating some way, or giving, like attending to the birth of this thing, rather than just giving birth to this thing.
Would that be related to first thought, best thought?
Certainly, yeah. I think
the bird disagrees. No, disagrees.
Or disagrees. No.
You guys don't know shit about songs.
Nothing to do with it.
Listen to a bird once in a while.
Yeah, I think that's essentially the message of that instruction: first thought, best, or that recommendation or conflation. First thought is the best thought. First thought not being really a thought at all, but just however you can meet, your moment there, and it's whatever quality it has right at the beginning. Qualities seem to come with it, and then seeing it wants to be often wants to get bigger, go somewhere, take a journey or something.
Well,
but practically speaking, do we have?
No, please.
Well, I was thinking, the idea of in the editing process, you can get into real trouble there. I do sometimes. That is trying to make my neurotic tendency is to make it too tight, I think. So I don't allow. It's got to be really close to the metrical beat. The line has to be really adhere to the metrical beats and doesn't allow much in the way of play among them, inside of that, which I realize I like. When there's variation, things can go on. They can deceive you a bit. You expect this to end here, but now it's extending itself. And I realize it must. As a musician, I realize I'm nowhere near being able to accommodate that kind of expansiveness. So that may be why I keep the lyrics a little too metrically tight with in their verses. So I don't know if I have the skill to play with that a little bit more, but it might be nice to do that. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Definitely the timing of lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really about serving the melody and letting the melody have the freedom to expand its territory, to deterritorialize the song a little bit.
And not be under the whip of the beat.
Yeah. Obviously, you have to set up a certain rhythm in order to, go past it and transcend it. So it is something to consider as far as tightness and looseness.
Yeah. Well, you do a lot more of that than I can do. Expand within a phrase, and you can still hold the song and the rhythm of it with the guitar.
I got a lot of inspiration from old country blues in that vein, because they'll stretch out, a line really long, or and of course it's because they're playing by themselves. They're not playing with a band where people are going to get off and like, well,
that's right. Yeah.
He added 3 beats there, so that was a great inspiration for that.
Yeah, I hear that too with amazement sometimes. They don't really care even if they get the rhyme in at the end. Sometimes it's
that's fun to mess with people's expectations.
And yet you're still doing this beat.
Absolutely. Well, I hope another year doesn't go by with
I hope
you.
not too. Maybe
not writing a song, because the
Yeah.
world definitely needs more Reed by songs.
Thank you, Tyler.
And I will put links to Reed's music down below in the description. You should definitely check him out. He's one of my favorite songwriters and poets, and really brings a unique poetic perspective to the craft and art of songwriting. So check out the great works by Reed by. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to be with you all.